We don't want to go after 5 acres that's worth $1 million in some hot Miami, Florida area. That's not this business model. This business model is 1, 2, 3 counties removed from our trial and error of building a business. That's what we found to be most successful to get deals.
If you have crazy goals, you need to be using all these strategies. You need to do direct mail. You need to do follow-up text. But if you have a lower budget, starting with texting, starting with cold calling is an amazing spot. And so many people grow their business so fast with those strategies. It might sound complicated selling. You do not need a realtor. You do not need a license. If you don't choose to go with a realtor, getting good marketing pictures, getting drone photographers out there, getting on land.com, getting on Facebook, getting buyers to go to your land.
I see the member success Discord channel and you see their checks that they're like, wow, my first property, it's an $86,000 check, $48,000 check, all these crazy profit numbers. And this is when you're like, holy crap, this actually works. Hey everyone, in this video we're talking about our land flipping blueprint, what took us from $0 to a $10 million business in just 24 or 36 months. And in this we're going to talk about everything from sending out your marketing to acquiring the deal to selling the property. And that's what we do in land flipping, Ron. We buy a property for cheap, usually about 40 to 50% of market value, and relist it for more and make money profit based on the margins you have there. And it's as simple as that, Ron.
Yeah, exactly. So excited to kind of go over this blueprint, how we've built our business, and how you guys can do the same.
Yeah. So first thing, guys, is when you're choosing a market or when you're starting this business, the first thing to do, step one in the process, is choose a market. A lot of people get caught up on this. One, because there are 3,300 counties, 50 states, 3,300 counties, and like 100,000 cities. If you just look at all the cities. So there's so many options to choose from. How do you start a market? I feel like we have a fairly bulletproof process for that, Ron, and I wanted to walk them through what that looks like. What are we looking at? How do we choose a market? And what's that look like?
Yeah, I mean, really the keys to choosing a market in this business is we do this business in rural America. We're not doing this typically when you're starting out. You're not doing this business in the middle of cities, urban areas. We want to be more rural. A lot of people start where they live and go a few counties out of where they live and then run some of our quick county selection tests to kind of see what fits the criteria. That's like the most simple way to do it is if you're in Southwest Ohio like we are, okay, let's go a little bit more rural out of Cincinnati where we are and choose 5, 7 counties, run some county selection tests and go from there.
What do those county selection tests look like?
So it's going to be days on market. So how long are properties sitting in the area? We don't want to be in too hot of an area, which means properties move too fast. And we also don't want to be in an area too slow where when we do acquire properties, it's not going to move. The other thing we look at is recent sold properties. Like how many properties are selling? How many pieces of land are selling in those areas in the last 30, 60, 90, 6 months? All those different things, and then also for sale. So when you are acquiring properties in a certain area, you're going to have direct competition with what is for sale. So we don't want there to be too much on the market. It's like having too much inventory of something. There's too many options. Like it's going to be more difficult to sell what you have if you have too much inventory. If there's too much inventory on the market, there's more supply than demand.
Yeah, and the goal of county selection and market selection, I should say, is to come up with areas where you think you're going to be able to acquire property. So competition, not crazy high, right? We're going to analyze the competition. And then 2, when you do get that property back and that lead back and you buy the property, you're going to be able to sell it in a reasonable amount of time for the money you're asking for. And that's one of the other data points we look at is what's 5 acres selling for, just to give us a sense of the price. Because we don't want to go after typically 5 acres that's worth $1 million in some hot, Miami, Florida area. That's not this business model. This business model is 1, 2, 3 counties removed. It's from our trial and error of building a business. That's what we found to be most successful to get deals, rinse, repeat in a very easy fashion. And that's what we're typically looking for, is making sure the competition's low enough so we can acquire and making sure we're going to be able to sell it fast.
For sure. That's really the basis of county selection, area selection. You can always get more precise with things, but for people just starting, that base is like the perfect starting point, I think.
Absolutely. Let's move on to step 2 in the process. So you identified a market, you have an area you want to market, whether it's zip code, city, county. We do a lot of things by county based just because it's rural land and counties is a good way to target those. Number 2, how are we going to acquire these properties? We have a market. How are we going to get leads? And that's where probably 80% of our focus is in this business. In real estate in general, and investing in acquiring under market value properties in general, that's the most important thing, is how are you going to get those highly motivated, highly qualified sellers? And we do three things. We direct mail is the most common, especially with blind offers that has an offer on it, which would essentially say, hey, Ron, I want to buy your 5 acres for $55,000. This is what the process looks like, blah, blah, blah. If you're interested, give us a call and fill out this purchase agreement. So that's literally an offer in the mail. Another way is neutral letters. So direct mail, blind offers, and neutral letters where it doesn't have a price on it. It's just more like, hey, I'm looking to buy land in the area. I saw you own land, more broad. The other big ones are texting, which is really, really big and really efficient as well. A little bit more time up front, but texting has been really good for our business and other people's businesses in the space as well. And it's something we teach and preach for sure. And then lastly, cold calling. And those are the three main ones. There's Google, PPC, and all that stuff. But using these three pillars that have been around for so long, direct mail is the most surprising and the most effective, in my opinion. Texting is also very, very effective. But you talk about cold calling, texting, and direct mail. Those are not going anywhere. And there's something tried and proven, and they work very, very well if your proper systems are in place.
Yeah, I think with your marketing strategy, you need to fit what your situation, your personal situation, your financial situation, your goals over the next 12 months. Like if you have crazy goals, you need to be using all these strategies. You need to do direct mail. You need to do follow-up text. But if you have a lower budget starting with texting, starting with cold calling is an amazing spot. And so many people grow their business so fast with those strategies. So you really need to align. That's what we try to do when we're talking to people, is aligning their situation with what marketing strategy they should use.
In their situation, mainly being the amount of money you have to spend, because direct mail is more expensive than texting and cold calling. So the amount of money you have ready to invest, and the amount of time you have, because there's trade-offs. Mail takes less time, but it's more money because you get less leads back. You get high quality leads coming in, but it's when you text someone, you get a 20% response rate. When you send mail, you don't get that kind of response rate. But most of your response rate from text are unqualified, unhappy people responding to stop and get off that, right? Just we're talking about response rate in general. So that's what we look at, is time and how much money you have. So step 1 was choosing a market. Step 2 is actually marketing to that market to acquire some leads and to get your marketing, mail, texting, all that stuff out. Step 3 is actually negotiating and acquiring the properties. So what I mean by that is you have leads coming in from step 2, and now how do we convert those leads into, getting them to sign that purchase agreement that you're going to use to actually get this process, get it sent over to title. That's this process, is actually acquiring, because this is a really big step. You have a lot of leads coming in, you're texting, cold calling, mailing, the leads are coming in. We got to get them to sign. That's a big, big step in this. If you just left this step out, we wouldn't have deals. You can't just leave it. This is a massive step. You're negotiating. Some sellers are going to want more money. Some people might say, I want $5,000. Sometimes you're going to have to go and say, oh, I priced a little too high. I need to retract my offer and give you a new offer. We don't like to do that, but it does sometimes happen. This is a big step because you're going to get them under contract. So this is about getting the seller under contract.
Yeah, so a lot that goes into this. You're going to be reviewing deals, not necessarily getting deep into due diligence. We're going to talk more about that. But this is all being under contract with a seller. So yeah, you are getting these leads in via text, via mail, via cold calling, however it is. It doesn't matter. The process is the same. And a lot of people I don't want to say skip over this step, Dan, but it is such an important thing. Being able to talk to these sellers, being able to negotiate them, being comfortable in negotiating is a huge, huge thing. And that's what really separates a lot of people doing land flipping, is they're willing to negotiate. They're willing to have tough conversations with sellers, like you were kind of talking about.
Absolutely. And I think the key of this business is in this step. It's, being aggressive on the phones, calling people back when they're calling you fast, setting up that next call, following up again, negotiating up when you need to, negotiating down. Sometimes they want $5,000. You'll stick your word at $25,000. They want $30,000 and you're going to sign. So it's just reading the room, understanding what their wants and needs are, collecting information from them, and then coming up with the solution and getting it under contract.
Yep. I mean, this is sales. We're not calling this selling because that kind of can get confusing with selling the land on the backside. But this is like the sales step in terms of like you need to be able to talk on the phone to people, and you can learn all these things too. Like it's not something you have to come in and be an A+ salesperson immediately. These are going to be hot leads that are coming into you.
Yeah, you can always be a D-, D+ salesperson who's not that comfortable, not that good. And by getting reps and being in our calls and really, really focusing on your sales game and your sales ability, you can take a D- salesperson and get a B+ salesperson within a couple months, I think, of just consistency, practice, re-listening. It's really uncomfortable re-listening to your own calls, things like that. But that's all basic. So after you acquire a property, we have it under contract. So we marketed, we got leads back. Now we did our sales job and got it under contract, right, Ron? The next step in the process is due diligence, making sure we're buying the right parcel and there's no defects and there's no crazy restrictions, making sure we're going to double our money and make money. And along with this, with the due diligence process is the transaction process, which is step 4, due diligence and the transaction.
Yeah, and I want to, it's pretty key in this blueprint, guys. Due diligence does not come before that salesy, that acquisition part for a reason. Some people, every lead that comes in, they start doing due diligence. That's not the way to do this business. You need to get a commitment from the seller, which was step 3. Going on due diligence, what you're doing here, you're making sure that the deal makes sense. You're making sure that there's no wetlands, or there's minimal wetlands. The deal makes sense. There's utilities, there's road access, all these different things. The title is clean. So that is what this step looks like as a whole. There's a lot that goes into due diligence. We have a really nice due diligence checklist that kind of takes you through the whole thing. But that's really what this step looks like, is making sure the deal checks out, and then you'll take that to title. This is part of that step as well. You'll take it to title and actually buy the property.
Correct. And title is fairly simple. A lot of things will come up, but it's if you're in land communities or if you're around other people, you ask those questions, you get them. Title is pretty systematic for the most part. There will be things that come up, but this is where you need to put your due diligence hat on and swap it out, because in this step before, we're in sales. The salespeople want to make the property work and the price work and everything. Due diligence, you put on your due diligence hat, and you're looking for things that are wrong with the property or things that could prevent you from doubling your money or prevent you from selling the property. It's a crucial part in the business just to make sure everything's smooth, the transaction's going to go smooth, you're going to be able to sell it fast, all of that stuff. Along with this, in the transaction process, this is where you're going to go and line up funding. So typically, we fund deals. We fund a lot of deals. There's other deal funders that you can raise private money, you can use your own money, or you can double close so you don't need to use any of your own money. This is stuff we all have laid out, but those are the main options for funding a deal. This is where you'll line it up. There's tons and tons of funding available in the communities. And if you have a good deal, you'll get funding. And then there's another solution that we use when, say a seller we offered $25,000. The property is going to sell for $50,000. The seller wants $37,000. Still $13,000 a margin there. That's when and you can't get them down from that 37. You're trying to pull them down to make it make sense. That's where things like that double closing that we teach really comes into play. It's a big, it's step B. We can't get them at step A on the offer price, what we really wanted at. Step B, we can double close. But lining up the funding for when you need funding if you're buying the deal and going to list it, which leads me to number 5. So we have all of it. We bought it. We bought the property. The transaction went through. Now we have to market the land to flip it and make our margin.
100%. Like this is where you make your money on the buy. You really do.
But this is where
you
you
need to
actually
follow through and like actually realize that money that you made. So yeah, this is step 5. Like Dan said, you are marketing the property. If you choose to go with a realtor, great. They're going to handle quite a bit of it. If you don't choose to go with a realtor, getting good marketing pictures, getting drone photographers out there, getting it on the MLS, getting it on land.com, getting it on Facebook, getting buyers to go to your land. So working with buyers to help them get to your land. And it might sound complicated selling. You do not need a realtor. You do not need a license. A lot of people ask us that. You don't need a license to do any of this, to do transactions. So this is that step. Like you want to market now to as many potential buyers in as many different ways as possible so you can reach the most potential buyers, and it kind of takes care of itself from there.
Exactly. You got great pictures. You got a great description. You have a good price, which is big. Making sure you're listing, like what is your listing price? You bought it for $25,000. What's the market telling you to resell it at? Making sure, confirming all that, making sure you're competitive. as soon as you overprice something, leads aren't going to come in. When you price things right, you're going to get flooded with leads, and pricing is the most important part of this. Whether you're using a realtor or not, like Ron mentioned, there's pros and cons to both of those that it's a big part of the program as well. But overall, marketing the property is just the goal is to get it off your plate as quick as possible. Going over that too is actually selling the property, which is number 6. So you marketed the property, you have leads coming in, you got offers coming in, accepting those offers and actually selling the property and going through step 4, which was the transaction, again, just on the other side of it pretty much.
Yeah, so then you're going through title on the backside. And one of the keys is like making sure you're accepting good offers, making sure you're accepting offers that are favorable to you as a seller. If there's 90 days of due diligence, think about how that's going to make you feel on day 89 if they back out. Like you want to try to accept favorable offers. Once you get an accepted offer, you're taking it to title. If they have a realtor in, it might be a little different, but you're basically repeating step 4, like you said, and going through title. And at the end of that, that's when you get paid. Absolutely.
And that's when the hard work's almost over for that part. Like you got through acquiring, you got through marketing, you got the leads. This is the reward. Like this is the most fun step. You're getting paid, right? As soon as that money comes, a lot of the people in the community, Ron, I see the member success Discord channel and you see their checks that they're like, wow, my first property, and it's an $86,000 check, $48,000 check, all these crazy profit numbers. And this is when you're like, holy crap, this actually works. And it's proof of concept, which leads me to number 7. It's just rinse, repeat, grow, and scale.
Yep. I mean, that's the name of the game. Like this isn't happening one at a time, guys. Like you could be doing 3 of these at the same time. Your first mailer, you could have got 3 deals, but at the same time, like to scale up, you need to be consistent with it. Like Dan said, rinse, repeat, do it again. And like doing that at scale, doing more at the same time, and then continuing to do that is how you build this business up to an 8-figure business, a 7-figure business, doing $100,000 a month. And that's the reality of it.
And the part that you want, the biggest part of this business is consistency with the marketing. So consistency with step 2, consistently sending out text, cold call, mail, whatever your strategies are that we come up with together, consistently doing that, right, Ron? And that's the biggest thing there, because when that consistency is going on, that means you're getting leads, which is your step 3, right? And you're negotiating. As long as step 2 is happening and you're sending out it, which requires step 1 of choosing a market, obviously, and all that, that's the whole funnel. It all starts with sending your mail and sending your text out, you get the leads, you go through the process. So as that's consistent, you're going to have consistent deals, consistent income coming in. And like we said, we profit $25,000 per deal. And you just need 10 deals a year to make 250. That's less than 1 deal a month to make $250,000. A lot of people are making a lot more than that, but it depends what your financial goals are and your resources and time availability is as well. But this business is really lucrative for a reason, and we just simplified it into a 7-step equation. Are we missing anything there?
I don't think so. There's obviously intricacies with each of these steps for sure, and you're going to learn a lot along the way, but this is the basis of the building.
This is the blueprint, yeah. Perfect. Well, that's all we have, guys. If you don't mind, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel below. Other than that, guys, thank you for joining. We'll see you next episode.
Thanks, guys.
As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.